Glad to have you join us again. And 2 infants have been confirmed killed after a boat capsized along Ablomo Cricket Jetty in Port Harcourt, River State. The boat was reportedly carrying 24 adults and 2 infants. All 24 persons were, however, rescued. The police public relations officer in River State, DSP Namdu Omoni, says the incident occurred at Sunday about 3 p.m. and that efforts to get the 2 girls are yet to yield results. Well, the boat mishap is coming on the heels of a recent boat accident where a man died after rescuing 12 persons in Bakano of Degema, local government area of the state. And 1 person has died from Lassa fever in Enugu State in an incident that occurred at the Federal Orthopedic Hospital last week. According to the state's Commissioner for Health, Dr. Fintan Ekochi, who confirmed the death. Since the patient's admission to the hospital, the state government has been tracing those who may have been in contact with the victim. Although no other case has been recorded since then, the government is appealing to healthcare providers and citizens to improve on their hygiene. Well, to ensure that the Feed Africa goal of raising agricultural productivity on the continent is attained in 2025, the Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation and an African Development Bank-funded initiative says that partners in the sector must adhere to the transactional accountability mechanisms put in place by the initiative. The country coordinator of the initiative stated this at the Aquaculture Compact West Africa and Central Africa Regional In-Country meeting, which held in Abuja. He says for agricultural transformation in Africa to be sustained, the sector will need $1 billion, which must be accounted for. Our correspondent Kayla Megwa reports.
African governments are realigning their income source from oil to agriculture. But getting the funding to the farmers who need it the most has been a real problem across the continent. To address the problem, the African Development Bank came up with the Feed Africa goal, one of its key priority areas for transforming the continent. The Technologies for African Agricultural Transformation, TAT, is the initiative put in place to achieve this. And its coordinator says agricultural productivity in Africa must be raised significantly.
We want to know what you have done, and we also want to know how you spend the money. You have to count for every penny. Unfortunately, that's the rules of the African Development Bank, and we have to abide by them. You have to start the game very transparent and deliver on what you agree you deliver.
Meanwhile, the national coordinator, West Africa Agricultural Productivity Program, says the sector should go beyond delivery to transformation.
Instead of us now going to have a second phase of work, it's now going to be West Africa Agricultural Transformation Program. So the scope now will go beyond just ordinary productivity.
A fisheries management expert spoke on transforming aquaculture in Nigeria, stating that Africa's share of the global fish production is very poor.
With all our water bodies, especially in Nigeria, only 9.5, when you look at it, the world data, production data. And in terms of aquaculture, Africa produced only 2.3%.
These intervention funds have to get to the real farmers. And then there's also the issue that TAT has to be in line with government priority projects across Africa, which sometimes could be a challenge if those priority programs are not in line with the expectations of the African Development Bank. To ensure accountability of these funds, TAT has promised that they have an accounting transparency mechanism in place to ensure that they meet number 2 of the African Development Bank's high 5 priority, which is to feed Africa. Kayla Magwa, Channels Television News.
And for the latest business stories, here's Anne Wilder.
You First. First Bank.
Thank you, Millicent. Welcome to Business News. Latest report from the National Bureau of Statistics shows that a total of 4.7 billion litres of premium motor spirit was imported into Nigeria in the second quarter of this year. And that's the highest volume of 1.78 billion litres. It was recorded in the month of April, while the highest volume of automotive gas, oil and household kerosene were imported in June this year. Statewide distribution of truck-out volume for the second quarter shows that 4.8 billion litres of premium motor spirit, 1.1 billion litres of automotive gas oil, 168.8 million litres of household kerosene and 176.9 million litres of aviation turbine kerosene were all distributed nationwide during the period under review. One of Nigeria's most capitalized lenders, we're talking about Zenith Bank, today announced a stronger earnings per share of 260 kobo in the second quarter of this year, as against 240 kobo, which it reported in the same period last year. The Tier 1 lender, however, has posted a gross earnings of 322 billion naira and post-tax profit of 81 billion naira. Income tax expense came in higher this year at 30 billion naira. The bank has now announced an interim cash dividend of 30 kobo, with its shares up 16 kobo today. Let's see how the Nigerian Stock Exchange fared at the close of trading today. It started on a bearish note. Sell-offs from the consumer goods sector indices hit the all-share index. Let's hear more from Chimezie Obiwago.
Hello and thank you for joining us on Stock Market Report. Trading started on an interesting note at the equities market, and it was one full of surprises. The market was trading up after the release of Zenith Bank's result, which saw the lender share price go up by 40 kobo. But the market suddenly changed direction to close negative, down by 0.06% when the price of Zenith Bank started to drop to eventually close at 23 naira 95 kobo. The loss recorded by Nigerian breweries also contributed to the negative close. Well, the market made just 2 billion naira for about 182 million shares traded in 3,203 deals. Traders say the market is taking Zenith Bank's results with a pinch of salt, with expectations that GT Bank will come up with more impressive earnings. And that was the Stock Market Report. I'm Chimezie Obiwago. Back to you now, Anne.
Thank you, Chimezie. Stocks on Wall Street have ended today's session on a positive note, driven by a 4% increase on the shares of Facebook, and that's its biggest one-day gain since April this year. Here are some of the other figures from global markets. And with those numbers, we end business news for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu. It's back to you, Millicent.
You First. First Bank.
Thank you, Anne. And a 45-year-old woman has been arrested by the police anti-cultism unit in Lagos for faking the kidnap of her daughter and herself. The woman, Pt.3 Kabir, was trailed and arrested in her hideout in Ado, that is Ado-Ota area of Ogun State. The Commissioner of Police, Imohimi Edgar, while speaking with journalists on the arrest, explained that those found culpable will be charged to court.
Police Command Headquarters.
It's a new month and it's time for some stock taking by the Lagos State Police Command. Suspects from different divisions and units of the command, arrested for different offences, are paraded before journalists. Notable amongst the cases is the arrest of this mother of four, Pt.3 Kabir, who is alleged to have faked her kidnap, and that of her physically challenged daughter to obtain money from her husband.
I asked her 500,000, she should give me to put for my market. You still don't have money.
Try the number, no good. Second time I try the number, no good. Third time,
I can't call him, go. I can't say, what happened to the phone? So by 2 o'clock, I just hear ring. I say, this one is money. Where did they do? Because maybe your wife who they don't kidnap your wife. From there, I starting to call the number. He said, I believe 15 million. From there, I call the bank, say, please. So after I say 8.5 last, after I call them, say 4 million.
The bubble, however, burst when the matter was reported to the police.
It's a situation where you have a loving husband who is taking care of the wife and the daughter, and who had given them money to take the daughter to the psychiatric hospital, only for the wife to now connive with her native doctor and hoodlums to fake her own kidnap and demand a whooping sum of 15 million from her husband. What would lead to this kind of desperation is a question that everybody will need to answer, and why a woman would want to defraud her husband in such a manner.
As the police investigate these suspects to establish their level of involvement in the crime, a manhunt has been launched for other members of the gang still at large.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Falconets of Nigeria begin campaign at the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup in France with a 1-0 defeat against two-time champions Germany. That's in sports news. Please stay with us.